Hey, Walter Sorrells back with another Knife Makers Friday 5. Today, what is this thing? Okay, so today we are going to talk about this thing, but not yet. Let's start with this right here. So what I'm going to be talking about today are some of the challenges of using belt grinding jigs and some of the things that you can do to make them more or less effective. Now this right here is a pretty standard model belt grinding jig. What does a grinding jig do? Well, basically all of the grinding on this knife right here is pretty simple. The outlines, all that stuff. But the one thing that's really technically difficult to do is to grind an accurate, clean, good-looking bevel. There are a lot of things that you're trying to do when you grind a bevel. You want them to be the exact same angle. You want this thickness to be the same from one end to the other. You want a nice, clean line. You want symmetry from side to side. You want the plunge line to look good. You want symmetry on the plunge line. There's just a lot to it, and it's just technically difficult to do. And so, the way that I got started grinding, I just freehand ground. You hold the knife up to the belt grinder, and that's really all there is to it. It's hard to do, and it takes a long time to learn. A jig like this will allow you to do it a little easier. This is not a perfect solution. It doesn't make you a master grinder like that. People who think that this is a magic bullet are mistaken, but it does allow you to climb the ladder a lot faster of making nice bevels. When I got started making folders, this folder right here, I don't produce these anymore. Folders are such a pain in the neck to make. But this is probably the last one of these folders that I made, and I still carry it to this day, 3-4 years later. So this knife was produced on a CNC machine, and at the time I was just getting started in CNC, and I was having trouble getting my blades symmetrically ground or symmetrically milled actually on my CNC machine. And so I had to go back and do a fair amount of hand grinding. And so my theory was, if I make this little tool right here, all these blades are exactly the same. And so if I could make something that was designed to cut this or to grind this exact size of bevel, that would help me do it faster and more accurately. And so this is what I came up with. So I made this on my CNC machine. The way it works, the way it works is that there's a little nipple right here that fits into the pivot here. And I think I just used a welding clamp to hold it on there, and then I'd grind it. And so I came up with this idea very specifically for this knife. But I thought, hey, I got 4 sides to this block here. This is just a solid piece of mild steel here. What if I did one on the other side that I could use for other knives? And so that's what I did. And then I thought, well, I got 4 sides, maybe I should do 4 sides to this. And so I made one. I don't know where it is, but anyway, I made a 4th side to one of these. Four sides, each one at a different angle. And I think I did it on a manual mill. And so you have to manually set each one of these angles. There was no way that I was going to be able to do it the way that I was doing it at the time, making it for myself. There was no way I could do enough, one at a reasonable cost that I could sell them. So, I never even really thought about selling them. I just made one for myself. Well, over time, I kept thinking about it, and what has happened is that in recent years, anybody who's watching my channel knows this, I've started making all kinds of tools. I don't have any of them sitting here, but tools for knife makers. And so I kept thinking, this is such a no-brainer. I love using this tool. Maybe I could make one for other people, but the process of making it on a 3-axis machine sort of eluded me, and I just kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, and I finally came up with a way of doing it. So the result is this right here, which I'm calling the Sorrells brick for obvious reasons. Probably not going to stick with this color, but anyway, I've made a whole bunch of them now, and I'm going to be offering them for sale, and I just thought I would talk a little bit about why I like this particular design and some of the contrasts to the more traditional type of grinding jig. The first thing is pretty obvious. As you can see, this is a complicated thing. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different parts, plus all these wing nuts and Allen nut, cap head screws and all these holes drilled in it. I mean, this is a really complicated thing to make. There's probably some welding here, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's welding. I can tell you, it would be a pain in the neck to make one of these things. This is simpler. And as a result, I can sell this cheaper than you can sell these kinds of things. So that's advantage one, and that's sort of the obvious thing. But what I found was I've got, people give me tools and stuff because I do YouTube videos. And so, I've had the opportunity over the years to try a whole bunch of different kinds of grinding jigs. And what I found was I just kept using this one. So there were a lot of things I like about it. You'll notice this has a high center of gravity. So in order to clear the top of this, in order to make this so that you can put a whole bunch of different kinds of knives in here, and you've got this little thing that allows you to put a grinding guide here, a plunge line guide, so this is an extremely versatile thing. That has implications not only for cost and complexity of manufacture and all that stuff, but it also makes it high. And every single grind, there are tons of different designs, and some of them are higher and lower, but it makes it kind of tippy. Let me jump in here and mention that if you've enjoyed all my YouTube videos like this one, and I've been doing them for 15 years now, where I'm showing gear, tips, techniques, and saving you money as you pursue the amazing hobby of knife making, well, maybe you ought to think about giving back to the channel. Easy to do. Jump on over to Patreon and help us out. You won't just get that warm, squishy feeling of pitching in, but you'll also get access to many of the many builds that I've done over the years. Knives, tools, all kinds of cool stuff. Patreon.com/Walter Sorrells. And so the most important thing that you're trying to do is to grind a consistent angle. And so if the thing tips, rocks, shakes, moves around, it's sort of defeating the purpose of this thing. And that's something that this thing, because it's just, this is what it is. It's just a giant piece of metal. It's real stable, it's got a low center of gravity, and what that means is that when you're grinding on it, it's just super stable, it just doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't, it just doesn't get you in trouble. So that's the first thing that I like about this functionally. The second thing that I like about it is that, let's talk about this again. So the advantage of a grinding jig like this, and most well-made grinding jigs are real similar to this, is it's adjustable. So, you adjust these little wing nuts, and then, this thing will move, and so you can position it to an infinite number of angles, which is great, but there's some downsides to that too. In my case, I make kind of semi-production type knives. I've got very similar sized knives by and large, very similar thickness, and as a result, I only grind a fairly narrow range of angles. But they are different from knife to knife. And so what that means is that if you have a jig like this, you want to grind this one, you got to reset it, and then if you wanted to grind this one, let's say, then you'd have to reset it again. And so if you're making production type knives, every single time that you make a run of knives, whether it's 2 knives or 100, you got to reset this thing. And especially if you make smaller knives, and most of us are not making hundreds of knives at a time. So every single time that you make a new pattern of knife, you're resetting this thing. And it's not easy to get it exactly the same every single time. Maybe you don't care if it's 3.5 degrees one time and it's 4 degrees the next time, but maybe you do. And if you do, then getting this thing dialed in correctly each and every time that you use it is a bit of pain in the neck. And so if you're doing especially short run 4 or 5 knives, resetting this thing and then resetting it again and resetting it again every time you do 3 or 4 knives, it actually takes a lot of time. I mean, this, you know, let's face it, this is supposed to save you time, but if resetting it every time creates problems for you, then it's sort of defeating the purpose of the jig in the first place, or at least one of the purposes of the jig. In this case, you got 4 different angles. Now, that's the downside. There are only 4 angles that you can make on here because there are only 4 sides to it. This has a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 7. Why did I skip 6? I'm not going to get into that, but there's a reason for it. This covers a really wide range of knives, but it does not cover every knife. You don't want to make a kitchen knife on this. It just is not appropriate. You need a smaller angle than that 3-degree angle. You can see how big it is. It's not really made to make giant bowies and stuff like that. You know, if you're making huge camp knives or real thick things, forged knives, the size and adjustability of something like this is going to be better than this. However, if you tend, and this is the case for me, I don't make these big giant wall hanger type knives. I don't make art knives. The knives that I make are designed for people to carry, and people don't want to carry 16-inch, you know, machetes and stuff like that. They want to carry smaller knives that they can carry on their person without freaking out the world. And so this is made with the angles that I have found to be most useful for the kind of knives that I make. And so it just makes it so freaking easy and repeatable. You know, you just stick it on here and that's one side. You want to change sides, you flip it over, slap that clamp on there, and you're grinding again. I mean, literally, what did that take me, 3 seconds? I mean, imagine flipping it around on this little sucker. You know, you can actually use these things to screw the knife on here and stuff. Imagine how much pain in the neck it is to screw it on and unscrew it every single time you want to flip it over. This, in fact, you don't even need to use a welding clamp. This is, you know, kind of superfluous to what I do. A lot of the time, I just pick it up, lay something down on there, grind away. And, you know, personally, I like flipping knives side to side so that I can look at it and make sure that I'm doing everything symmetrically. I don't just grind the, you know, one side to death, flip it over and grind the other. So going back and forth, super easy with this. Another thing that is a problem that you'll run into with some designs, you know, it really depends on the design, but some of them you get what I call angle drift. So let's say you tighten this down, you thought you tightened it all the way, and you're just laying into the belt grinder, and you look at your knife and you're like, these angles aren't symmetrical, and I don't understand why. Well, the reason why is because as you were pushing on this thing, the angle changed, it slipped a little bit. Some of these kinds of jigs are more prone to drift than others, and some of them use a sort of turnbuckle type system, and those will hold up pretty well. But everything that's adjustable has the potential to slip. You literally cannot slip with this design right here. Let me see, I wrote some other little notes here. Oh, I mean, this is seems sort of minor, but this is super heavy, and anything that you slide around on a table has a tendency to bind and stuff, and even a nicely made jig has the potential to kind of skip over like this and cause grinding defects that may not be a major problem, but they might if you're right towards the end of grinding. This thing, because it's got such a low center of gravity and it's so heavy, it really takes a little work to be able to screw up your angle and make it kind of skip around like that. It's not that you can't do it, but it's harder to do with this. An adjustable grinding jig, again, I'm not picking on this general type of design, which just about everybody that uses grinding jigs uses. This is more adaptable than this is. That's just a fact. But in my case, I don't actually need that most of the time. Most of the time, I'm grinding similar sized knives with similar bevel angles. And so this way I know when I machine this into here, oh, that's 3 degrees. I can pick it up. I know it's 3 degrees. I don't have to get out my angle finder. I don't have to get out a protractor. I don't have to screw around comparing it with some knife that I made 5 years ago. It says 3 degrees, it is 3 degrees, there it is, bam, off you go. One cool thing that's coming up with me is that I'm actually going to be sort of soft launching a new website. It's going to be called Sorrels Tool. I've been making so many tools lately. I was just like, I've got the Japanese sword making tools that I make, saya chisels and a couple other things. And I'll probably be doing some knife making kits. And this, I just really like this thing, I mean, obviously I made it, and so, I have kind of a natural affinity for it, I guess. But I just really think it's a good idea, honestly. Anyway, I'm going to start producing these in bigger numbers and selling them, and I just thought it made sense to be selling them on a site, a place that is going to be devoted exclusively to tools, and that you can't mix up with Tactics Armory, which is my knife line, or the Japanese swords that I make, which I sell on Walter Sorrells blades. And I'm doing fewer and fewer Japanese swords. I can't even remember the last time I made a full Japanese sword. And so to me, it just made sense to kind of come up with a new brand that was just for this stuff. So anyway, Sorrels Tool, I hope by the time that I put this video out, I'll actually be live with it. Like I said, it's going to be kind of a soft launch. It'll have these, it'll have some of my saya chisels, maybe a couple other items on it. It's not going to be too fancy at this point. But anyway, it'll be out there. So if you're interested in trying one of these out, I am considering selling a few of them from this first run on kind of an introductory price. Just, with the caveat that try it out, see what you think, let me know what you think. I'm not sure I'm going to do that, but check the website and see. So anyway, that's what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. I've been going at it hardcore, trying to get this thing worked out. Over the next few weeks, my intention is to do a couple more videos if you're interested in maybe how the sausage is made type stuff, a little bit more about how I came up with the idea and how I refined it and how I'm actually making it. If there's an overall point that I have here, it's that one of the fun parts of this job is that, or this hobby, if it's a hobby for you, is that there's not a right way and a wrong way. I've said this 8 billion times in my videos, but there's not a right way and a wrong way to make a knife. And looking for improvements in process and making tools for yourself and trying to figure out better ways of doing stuff, that's just one of the absolute funnest parts of the job for me. Standing in front of a belt grinder 8 hours a day is not one of the fun parts of the job, at least not for me. But coming up with new ideas, new tools, all that sort of stuff, I really, really enjoy it, and I think probably a lot of people who make knives do too. And so in this case, I just sort of felt like, hey, this is something I want to share with the world, because I actually use this tool. I think it has some real significant benefits. It's dope simple, but still I think it's kind of a cool idea. And when you're sitting around your shop, you're going to be coming up with cool ideas too. And if you have the opportunity to share them with the world, that's a cool thing. I'm lucky enough to have a platform like I do on social media to show people stuff that I'm doing and see if it's interesting to them or if it'd be useful for them. So I guess that's about all I got on that front. Coming up in the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing a video about a waterfall attachment for my Ameribraid grinder, and like I said, some of the backstory about making this thing. And I'll probably use that waterfall attachment. They call it the whip attachment at Ameribraid to make an integral bolster knife. And when I make that, hopefully I'll share that with you guys too. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate your listening to me drone on here. But this is something that has been an interesting challenge for me, a lot of fun for me, and I hope you found it at least a third as interesting as I did. All right, guys, take care and keep on making those knives. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and make sure that you click on that bell so you get notified of all the latest videos. Want to buy a knife from me? Check out my modern blades at tacticsarmory.com. Digging the channel? You can support our video making efforts on Patreon. I've been banging away on these videos for like 10 years, so I hope you'll show some love for all that hard work. Link in the cards and descriptions. Finally, if you're interested in making Japanese swords, check out my full line of Japanese sword videos where I show how to forge Japanese swords as well as how to polish them and how to make fittings, handles, and scabbards. WalterSorrellsBlades.com.